Hey everybody, and welcome back to our reviews. So let's get right into it. We are back with season 4 of The Flash. Here with episode 1, The Flash Reborn. Obviously taking a little bit of a page from Flash Rebirth. Um, and all in all, I thought this was a reasonably solid episode. It does suffer from the problem that all episodes, first episodes of a new season, especially when there's been a time jump, do suffer from, because the way it works is that you spend so much time sort of like checking in with everybody that and just kind of setting things up that the story of the conflict that occurs in this episode almost always ends up being rather weak. And this episode here, I'm referring to the whole situation with the Samuroid, which is, I mean, that's not something I'm familiar with from the comics, so I don't really have any opinion on that. Anyway, what's going on here is they do do a nice job of, checking in with everybody, giving everybody something interesting going on, and just sort of really setting things up for what looks like to be a very, very promising season. Especially when the producers have said, we're not going to be doing another speedster villain this season. We're kind of spent on that. I mean, we did Reverse Flash, we did Zoom, we did Savitar. I'm kind of glad. It's time to walk away from that well. And they do introduce us extremely effectively to the Thinker at the end of this episode. I can only really remember reading one story with him in it, and I don't recall it terribly well. But his look is very nicely in keeping with the character from the comics. Toned down a little bit, but still nicely in keeping with it. And it certainly makes a very nice impact. It really grabs you. It's like, wow, what's going on with this guy? This seems pretty interesting. So, points to the show for that. It was nice to see Peekaboo again. I don't think we've seen her since season 1. I mean, granted, it was pretty brief, and I don't know. It seems like maybe that was just a little too easy for her to ultimately win that fight, but one does have to keep in mind that Peekaboo is not somebody to be taken lightly, and that, while Cisco and Wally have been doing a good job, they're not Barry. I mean, they even flat out said that basically one out of all the 3 bad guys that the replacement team has gone up against have managed to get away. Anyway, getting right into things, I do like what they're doing. For example, let's start with Caitlin. What they're doing with her. She's kind of found a sort of place off, very far from where she previously was, but seems like a place where she can at least has her own thing going on, and she falls back into the Team Flash fold very, very quickly. They do sort of seem to be setting up some stuff for future episodes, and if you've read the casting announcements and things like that, you can probably pick up a few things about what is being set up in those various scenes in the bar. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm going to leave it at that. Of course, they can't have it be too easy and have Killer Frost completely go away, so we get that nice little scene at the end showing that, you know what, yeah, we're probably going to get another Flash versus Killer Frost throwdown this season, which I'm all for, because the one we got last season was really, really cool. I also like what they did with Cisco this episode. First of all, I definitely love the various references that he's thrown out. I mean, this is like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Akira Kurosawa, Toshiro Mifune, referring to the Samuroid as a samurai jackass. That was quite nice. That was cute. And I do like that it is acknowledged in this episode that, hey, yanking Barry out of the balance, out of the Speed Force, is going to upset the balance. Iris really gets on his case. It's like, well, how do you know the Speed Force isn't going to go and grab Wally? Because there needs to be a speedster in there. Which is not something that had occurred to me, but yeah, yikes. And how do you know that messing around with a Speed Force like this isn't going to come out and destroy the world again? Because messing around with the Speed Force is a really, really bad idea. And I also like how Cisco eventually admits that this whole thing with the Samuroid just really gives him the excuse to do what he's been wanting to do all this time, and just like, F it, I want Barry back. so I'm going to go and do this. And it does really speak very well to Cisco's character in terms of the consistency of his character, not the whole I'm going to go mess around with the Speed Force because I think it's a good idea thing. Well, no, that's a terrible idea. Joe, the whole Joe and Cecile relationship, that's also nicely done. It feels very real, feels very organic, and I like that he kind of gives Joe his own thing. Something that is exclusive to him as a character, besides his job. It gives him a relationship that is key to Joe. And they have taken the time, I'm glad, to sort of flesh Cecile out so that she seems like a real person. Now, granted, she's a periphery character. She's not, I don't think she's ever going to be like the focus of an episode, but she's a nice supporting character, and she and Joe have a nice dynamic. I do also like what they did with Wally this episode. Him actually speaking Japanese. That was done. That was nicely done, and I like how they point out that Wally has his own unique skills that he can bring to the table. Yes, he's a very good engineer, but then so is Cisco. But Wally again should have some things that are uniquely exclusive to him. And as somebody who lives in Japan and actually tries, doesn't always succeed, to speak and study Japanese every day, I'll give him credit. That was actually some fairly good pronunciation. I mean, not fantastic, but for the circumstances, pretty good. And I have certainly heard far worse Japanese spoken on TV shows. The worst being Noah Webster on Heroes. Whenever thank God that character only spoke Japanese a handful of times, but it was the worst, most wooden Japanese I have ever heard come out of a human being's mouth in my entire life. Oh man, I can't remember the name of the actor who played him, but boy, that dude cannot speak Japanese. In all fairness, though, that's not really a gigantic criticism that you can level at somebody. It's like, you can't pronounce a language that you don't speak terribly well. Well, duh. I mean, if you were to ask me to try and say something in like Thai, I'd absolutely butcher it beyond all recognition. I'm just saying. If you're going to have actors do this, maybe have somebody who can speak the language work with them a little bit so that they're not just ear-splittingly bad about it. I don't know. I suppose all that time that I've spent as a language student has just maybe a little bit more picky about that sort of thing. The whole thing with Iris, I mean, I really did like how she took Barry's advice to heart and just kind of tried to go on with her life, tried to go out there and do good things. Not sure how well that whole plan of let the bad guy capture me thing was, but at the end of the day, it did work. And it really did tap into that whole thing of Barry saying, I'll always find you. I'll always come for you. You're my anchor. You are what will always bring me back, which is one of the great driving forces of their relationship. And, it shows that Iris has some serious stones. And it did lead to that really awesome fight at the wind farm between the Flash and Samurai, which was really cool. I thought that was wonderfully done. That was beautiful. Let's see, what else do we have to talk about? Not really nothing particular to say about Julian deciding to go back to the UK. Tom Felton has apparently decided to move on to other projects, and disappointing because I enjoyed Julian as a character, but c'est la vie, right? And at least we got him around for one season, and he was a really cool actor, and he'll probably make a guest appearance or two at some point in the future, because that's just kind of how these sort of things go. Let's see. Hey, is it just me, or when we got that brief external shot of Star Labs, did it look like maybe they had actually repaired some of the damage from the particle accelerator explosion? I mean, it's been like 5 years, and now it looks like maybe it's been repaired a little bit. I don't know, maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me. Anyway, the whole thing with Barry returning. Yeah, this is kind of one of the things where it felt a little weird. Just sort of like, okay, okay. I mean, I understand why they did. Barry has been stuck in the Speed Force where time is not linear. He's been experiencing his past, his present, and the past, the present, and the future almost simultaneously. Even drops some exact quotes from previous episodes and says some things like, we're going to need more diapers that are obvious hints about the future. Um, so, I mean, that was nicely done. I mean, obviously, he's something like that. Yeah, he's going to be disorientated. Not really sure what's up with all that stuff that he's scribbling on the walls. I thought that it might be interlac, which, if you don't know, is a written language used in the 30 and 31st century, the time of the Legion of Superheroes. And this is an actual written language developed by people at DC Comics. I mean, there's an entry on it in Wikipedia. Now, granted, it's just some funky little symbol that translates to an A, another funky little symbol that translates to a B. I mean, it's basically just a cipher of English. But still, the fact that comic book creators took the time to actually do that is quite cool. There's incidentally also a Kryptonian alphabet. So yeah, the DC has done this, created two completely unique alphabets twice. So like I said, there's an Interlac Wikipedia page, so I did a quick check on that and know all that stuff that Barry is scrawling on the walls is not Interlac, which would have been awesome as heck if it had been, but I'm not the only comic book fan out there who knows this, so if they had, then it would have been translated immediately, and the whole "this house is bitchin" thing, well, obviously there's something going on with that. We're going to have to figure it out. I'm not really sure why they call that whole thing where, he's thinks he's saying different words, but we're hearing different things. I'm pretty sure the proper medical term for that is aphasia. But in all fairness, I'm not a doctor and I don't know a heck of a lot about neurology or anything like that. So I'm just going to assume that somebody on the show probably just read something a little bit more in depth on that subject than I did. Um, let's see. Yeah, I think that kind of covers it. Um, all in all, I mean, it definitely did have a few weaknesses, but it's mostly just the result of, hey, here's all the stuff we've got to set up. I mean, I really felt it was a much stronger setup, the new season episode, than I did with when in regards to the first episode of the new season of Legends of Tomorrow, which the review which I've already done. So if you're watching that show as well, please check that out. I, of course, will be doing reviews for Arrow as well and Supergirl. I will sit down sometime soon and make a channel update video just to sort of remind everybody everything I'm going to be reviewing. There's definitely going to be some special reviews. I'm going to continue to review all the movies that I go to the theater to see. Most recent one I believe I did was Spider-Man Homecoming, and we've got like Star Wars is coming out soon. We got Thor coming out soon. Justice League. And there's the stuff on Netflix like Punisher. Oh man, it's just shaping up to be a great, just really great the next several months. Okay, guys, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi, and join me on Tumblr at Jedi Reviewer. Until next time, take care and have a good one.